Hi there, I'm Megan, and I study English language education. I take lots of language courses, and this year it was Discourse Analysis and Sociolinguistics. So there's one topic I want to talk about with you today. Let's dive in and do a recap together. Conversational analysis is a coordinated set of conventions for a conversation system, similar to a dance. And as language-speaking individuals, it is the study of what makes our conversation possible. This understanding is even more crucial for those individuals in the educational field. Pre-service teachers need to learn conversational analysis, particularly the efforts of turn-taking and adjacency pairs, because classroom discourse has a unique structure, unlike typical conversation, and considering student-led constructivist practices and the importance of input makes all the more of this even more crucial. To demonstrate some of the topics to you today, I am going to talk about a video from Massachusetts Department of Education, and it is a video from 11th grade mathematics. So I'm going to use examples from a transcript, but it's a really great example of teaching practice, so you should definitely go and check the full video yourself. But let's go. But first, some definitions. The English language has its own unique structure, and therefore its own rules for conversations. One of those is the presence of turn-taking. Yeah, I know, I was so excited about it, but okay, you go first. Depending on the situation or environment, clear markers for who speaks to whom will arise. If there were no turn-taking, there would be no natural order in the conversation. So, smooth transitions are really valued in discourse. So, let's look at how that applies to teachers. Well, classrooms are a bit more structured, so turn-taking systems need to be established. Classroom discourse heavily leans on call and response, so students learn the quote-unquote rules from their teacher. Yeah, so that's things like raise your hand when you speak, but it can also simply be observing teachers' pauses and gestures. Classroom discourse follows the IRF structure. An initiation, this can be as simple as hello, and a response, which would just be hi, back to the first person, and a follow-up, how are you? But here in discourse analysis for the classroom, it's unique because it's pedagogically minded. In other words, it has a different purpose than normal conversation. Teachers, well, they're trying to teach. Their initiations serve a purpose to guide students to an answer. In classroom discourse, the last one, follow-up, is not always necessary. Again, think of call and response. If there's a follow-up, it's usually for a teacher to praise a student or confirm an answer.
What about, think of a shoe company. Could they use it, like Nike?
Oh, yeah.
Teachers also often use small words called frames to indicate a boundary, such as the word okay, right, or now, to mark beginnings and ends within the lesson. The frames inform the students that they need to pay attention to what will happen next.
Now, your original data, if we go back and look at that, your original problem, right?
You can see how the teacher starts the utterance with the word okay with a question mark, and then she says the word right with a question mark at the end of the utterance. So the initial utterance with the frames around it are to bring students' attention back to her at the front of the room so that they'll be ready to think when she asks her next question. Two theories in the realm of TEFL that can help us understand these ideas are constructivism and Krashen's input hypothesis. First and foremost, constructivism is an approach to English language learning emphasizing the process, since it is a pedagogy that opposes the centrality of the teacher. Secondly, language learning is not static. Thus, Krashen's input hypothesis discusses the role of teacher input. In other words, language is acquired through input only when understanding is applied. All language input should be comprehensible. Otherwise, it's just talk and not useful. How does a teacher practically apply these classroom discourse elements with their knowledge of TEFL theories? Well, number one, they need to be transparent about what they are teaching to their students. Students have to be aware of turn-taking as they speak. It is a skill to be learned. Second, during a conversation, lecturers will model how an individual takes the floor during a regular conversation.
Who could use information like that? What kind of career? Amanda?
People who are running against him.
People who are running against him. If you're going to prepare for the Olympics, you need to know how fast he's running.
The teacher does not provide the students with a correct answer. Rather, she allows input. Then, the teacher incorporates student answers into the lesson. She implements constructivism into the lesson by having the students lead. Although it is unclear from the camera's perspective, it can be surmised that the teacher sees multiple hands raised. Yet, each student cannot speak at once, so she must nominate a student. This is how she teaches them the rules of taking the floor. These interactions were only possible because the teacher established the rules of turn-taking and preferred pairs in the classroom. The interaction doesn't happen without it. I personally had experience with trying to practice constructivism and turn-taking in the classroom during my school experience program. While I was visiting a middle school, I was in charge of leading the discussion with students, and it was really difficult for them to understand these student-led, guided practices because they just weren't used to it. In a classroom like theirs, they focused more on behaviorism, where it was all about answer and response, but specifically for repetition, not for trying to elicit information and ideas from the students. So a lot of times it would kind of just go like this. So what do you think of when I say the word action? I don't know the correct answer, miss. I realized in that moment the mistake that I had made. Because you see, I had not started the class by scaffolding and modeling the way I wanted students to answer the discussion. When they saw my open-handed gesture, which usually indicates that you want a student to speak, they didn't know what I was doing because it had not been modeled for them in the past. So if I were to do a situation like this again, or even teach the same class, what I would need to do is start small. I would need to show them the expectations I have for turn taking. This could be by doing the activity myself first, saying the question and then answering with my own perspective. So it needs to be modeled for students to understand it. Otherwise, again, the interaction doesn't have a meaning. After compiling the transcript from the video using the Jefferson Convention style, as well as looking for the teacher's usage of different speech acts, I found one interesting phenomenon. For one, there was an almost equal number of student replies, to the number of confirmations from the teacher. Now, the reason this is interesting is because that means in this teacher's IRF structure of asking the students a question, waiting for reply, and then following up, that means that almost every single time that a student replied with an answer, she made sure to confirm what they said or even confirm how correct their statement was. The reason this works really well is because, for one, it means she has really practiced modeling that IRF structure in her classroom, but then also pairing that with the ideas of constructivism and input hypothesis, that she is encouraging them with every reply. And it's the same with now, there's input, they understand and it's comprehensible. both the combination of turn taking with the combination of the constructivism practice. So you can tell that this teacher has practiced lots and lots. And it's a really great example of how you can lift students up by practicing classroom discourse analysis and using TEFL practices. All right, so that's all I have for you today on classroom discourse analysis and the presence of turn taking and adjacency pairs in the classroom. So considering a constructivist point of view, the two go perfectly together. So I hope you learned a lot. I actually wrote a paper on this, so you can go read that if you want to know more. I'd really appreciate it. But thank you again so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.